New Zealand is located deep in the South Pacific, and it's renowned for its beautiful scenery, its gorgeous mountains, glaciers, lakes, rivers and forests, both natural and man-made. And it's just about as far away from the industrialised Northern Hemisphere as it possibly could be, which no doubt accounts for the beautiful blue skies and clear, pure air that is so apparent in this fascinating country. And situated almost in the centre of the North Island is the city of Rotorua, famous for its Maori culture, its Maori heritage, the thermal activity, and the fabulous trout fishing that's available in the lakes and rivers nearby. And it may come as some surprise to learn that amongst all that can be found one of the world's largest double-O gauge model railways, Scotts Trainworld. Hello, I'm Mike Scott. And if the presence of such a large model railway doesn't surprise you, then perhaps the fact that the layout depicts the scenery of England, Scotland and Wales rather than New Zealand surely will, for a visit to Trainworld is featured as a journey through Britain, although of course we are deep, deep down under. Well, hopefully, having aroused your curiosity, why don't you join me on that journey through Britain as seen through the eyes of a model railway enthusiast. Well, here we are inside the Trainworld complex, and where better to start our journey through Britain than right here in Coronation Street. It's appropriate too that when talking trains and planes, we start in the north of England, where the steam locomotive was born and from where many a Rolls-Royce engine has powered both civilian and military aircraft. The towns and cities of northern England really can be busy places when it comes to railway traffic. Just like anywhere else in the world, buildings catch fire, the fire brigade is called, and a traffic jam invariably results. In this particular case, there seems to be more smoke than flames. But everything seems nicely under control, including the inevitable crowd. And there's no shortage of water either, as the old Cornish Riviera Express passes with hundreds of holidaymakers en route to the seaside resorts of Devon and Cornwall for sport and relaxation. And when it comes to sport, that's my kind of pace. That isn't. Now there is a beautiful locomotive, the Princess Royal, one of a group of Pacific-class express locomotives designed by Sir William Stanier of the London, Midland and Scottish Railway. Elegant, powerful and fast. Just as important as the big expresses are the small commuter trains. They do sterling work. That's my kind of a house. I'd love that, complete with rats on the roof and birds in the drain pipes. It would be great, particularly when set in the beautiful countryside along the Welsh-English border, where one finds numerous lovely bridges designed and built by Thomas Telford, a true master builder. Let's watch an old, hard-working goods train trundle across such a bridge. And back to the fast stuff. Now there's a nice watery scene. Bows into the current, lads. That's it. Oil. I guess everybody needs oil. Now here's a case of the tortoise and the hare. I wonder who's going to win this one. Hello, what's so interesting? Ah, a pub. Now that is interesting. But a pub with no beer, that's not so interesting. Now that's a great place to visit, and that's a great way to get there. Hay cart rides. I used to love hay cart rides. Fond memories. Now here is a really famous locomotive, setting out on its long, non-stop journey back to London. Away from the great big station, the firemen working hard to keep up steam. Across the bridge, over the Firth, and down the east coast. London is 8 hours away. Over now to Wales, to the busy little seaside town of Clwyd, where holidaymakers and residents still queue to see the movies, just like I did. And they're still watching the same films too. The Music Man, where the local train still drops off and picks up packets and passengers like it's done for years. Where you can still buy a soggy choc ice and get fresh fish for tea. And there's plenty to do too. The tide is well in today, and lots of folks are obviously having a great day. Taking it nice and easy. What a life, eh? What a life. Telecommunications, FM radio, satellite transmissions are all important today, as indeed are fire lookout points and the forests themselves, amongst which you can still find the old water wheels grinding the corn and the wheat to make that lovely wholemeal bread, on which yours truly spreads oodles of butter. Lovely. Yachts, boats, beaches and bathers. You'll find them all in Britain. Nude beaches too, always in secluded areas, far away from prying eyes. Well, nearly always anyway. Gardening, very popular in Britain. Lovely fresh garden potatoes, more butter. Well, it was like this officer, this fence, it just walked out in front of me. Quarries. Now they're necessary in every country of the world, particularly in Britain, where the need for stone for railway and road construction is never ending. And here are two historic locomotives, the beautiful Blue Mallard, the world's fastest steam locomotive, and a Black 5, the world's most successful class of locomotive, 842 being built by the London, Midland and Scottish Railway and British Rail. And that's a lot of locomotives. A famous train now of yesteryear, the Coronation Scot. It ran daily from London to Glasgow, up the west coast main line of Britain. Truly a lovely journey. And now for the chalk countryside of Britain. You often see vintage car rallies. And there's the famous white horse carved out of the chalk hillside, where sheep run freely, and where lovely manor houses stand, often studied, frequently photographed. Where the cows seldom bat an eyelid when a train goes by. Where the farmers' cottages have stood for centuries. Where north, south, east and westbound trains crisscross the countryside en route to and from the rest of Britain. Truly a lovely part of the world. They too have their fire brigade and a helicopter at the ready. The small two-coach diesel trains, known as DMUs, diesel multiple units, bring the folk from the countryside into town, while the long coal trains hustle between colliery and power station. And working on them can be a dusty job, and both you and your clothes often need a good wash at the end of the day. Running towards us now is a Class 91 electric locomotive, currently the fastest locomotive in service with British Rail. They operate express services between major centres at a maximum speed of 140 miles an hour, and that's flying. And that's followed by an Intercity 125 diesel, so called because 125 miles an hour is the maximum permitted speed allowed for these locomotives on British Rail. One such locomotive currently holds the world's speed record for diesel traction at 144 miles an hour. Any British Rail mainline station is a busy place. They are seldom quiet. In the case of Clapham Junction, Britain's busiest station, over 2,000 passenger trains a day pay their respects. Our freight train seems to have reached the county of Oxford, where delightful old Tudor houses are common. I used to love to stay in these old places, where the floors are at all different angles, where the windows don't fit tight, and where there are varying sized gaps all around the doors. Many a pub bedroom was just like that. They creaked and they groaned, and they made a sound that would put a smile across even the face of Alfred Hitchcock. Lovely places, full of atmosphere. And now the lovely little village of Hushton. Cows and sheep waiting to be loaded. Tea in the garden, perhaps. And some contented souls, very contented souls. It's truly a lovely little village. It's got its pub, its post office, its blacksmith shop, and its church. And there's a wedding on today. I wonder if we could get a closer look. Perhaps there's a blushing bride. Yes, there is too. I think she's anxious to get to the pub for the reception. Well, they're offloading the beer anyway, so she'll be right. There's the advance party. Just testing. I think they need more beer. Yeah. He certainly needs to get there before this lot. They have a very thirsty reputation. And that's a nice way to spend an afternoon. What do you think of that, eh? To plough the furrows straight and true. Make sure that tea is your only brew. That's good advice. But if you want milk, it's on its way. And to end our journey through Britain, let's take a leisurely journey with Mallard. Not breaking any records, just taking it nice and easy. And finally, two contrasting scenes. From the hustle and bustle of industry and commerce to the peace and tranquility of the beautiful British countryside. Well, there we are. That's Mike Scott's Trainworld. I sincerely hope you've enjoyed your journey through Britain and that you've got as much pleasure from visiting Trainworld as we did in making it. And I would just like to acknowledge the assistance received from both British Airways and British Rail in setting up the project. I hope too that next time you're in Rotorua, you'll call and see us so that whilst you're in New Zealand, you can spend a little more time touring Scotland, Wales and England's green and pleasant lands. By train, of course. Goodbye.